back for another episode of the Embodied Love Lounge.
Yes.
And today's episode actually is a really hot topic. We're going to be talking about oral sex. In fact, we decided to call it Untapped Treasures of Oral Sex.
Yes, because there are a lot of things that are untapped. And even though many of us love this, there are things to learn all the time about it. So.
Well, and also for some, it can be a quite vulnerable, quite abrasive topic even.
And some people don't do it unless they're in a love relationship. So there's a lot of different standards.
Well, good doctor, tell us, what is oral sex?
Basically bringing your mouth to someone's genitals.
That's
nice and simple.
I like that. There we go.
but not just hovering. You're doing things with the mouth and the genitals.
Well, I think also, too, an important part of the attitude a lot of times people bring to this is that it's kind of done as an act of service or a favor for one's partner. Maybe like just on their birthday if they've been really good that year.
Yes, exactly. And it can feel like a chore for others. It's something that sometimes people avoid. Plenty of people don't like receiving, especially women, because they're just so terrified that they smell and taste weird. And so they just try and avoid that, which is really sad because so much ecstatic pleasure is experienced through the oral. I think the tongue is particularly designed for the vulva.
Well, and I think also a lot of people, too, don't like giving. Because of it feeling like a task, maybe it's like not that comfortable for the neck. But well, let's go into like, why do oral sex? Like, why?
Why do it?
Yeah.
Gosh, because it's awesome.
Well, I think there's two things that are really like quite key about it. That can be both the positive as well as the negative.
Well, for the female body, receiving oral prior to any penetration is a really incredible way to engorge and to bring more lubrication and to also just get the whole system revving, because a lot of times in a female body, it takes a little bit longer to be ready for the act of penetration.
Some guys also like it too because it gets them ready, but then other ones will avoid it because they're afraid, oh no, that's going to get me too close to coming, so that way then I go into sex and I'm just going to pop off like a
exactly
like a youngin.
Yeah. So what I wanted to explore a little bit are what are the inhibitions that we have around it, because some of us just don't want to go there, or we've never gone there. We've heard horror stories or whatever. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I want to get back to that little point that I made before that are both the positive as well as the negatives. And I think it comes down to the sensual as well as the intimate side of it. And I want to specifically as well define sensual, because most people think of sensual as like candle lights and just like soft touches, and then intimacy is, you know, more candle lights and soft touches and romance and maybe some box of chocolates. Jeez. But we actually have like, there's nothing wrong with those things.
I've never gotten a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're going to get. Now, the thing about the sensual part, I'd like you to go ahead and, like, when we hear at Embodied Love talk about sensual, what do we mean by that?
Well, just a very basic way is involving all of the senses. So sensuality, how we make sense of reality. So literally like smelling, tasting, seeing, hearing, touching, all of those senses, they're crucial to enhancing an experience in the body.
So how does one make sense of reality when it comes to blowjobs, meaning mouth to penis, or cunnilingus, mouth to vulva?
Well, I think one of the lovely things is the scent of one's own lover, and to be able to take someone in just through the sense of smell. For me, I'm very smell person. Like I like to sniff everything. So I'll sniff the back of the ear and the neck. I'll sniff the armpits. I sniff under the chest and the belly and the thighs. I like sniffing because there's like a whole landscape of aroma, which I actually think is part of doing oral sex. I think if we skip the whole body, we miss out. It's a little bit like going to a beautiful gourmet meal and you don't even take it in. You just start stuffing your mouth. You don't taste anything and you just gobble it down. And 2 minutes later, it's finished. And you're like, okay, what else is there to eat? Because you haven't experienced it.
So when you say take in the whole body, you mean actually take the time to smell the whole body, or do you mean like take in the whole
whatever's
body
your
of
preference? So So yes, both. I like to touch and smell and see and use all my senses to take in my lover. And then I focus my attention on the genitals. And that, when you do that, taking in the person and then start to focus on the genitals, it creates erotic tension. It's kind of exciting. It's like, ooh, she's looking, what is she going to do now? And so it creates a sense of anticipation, both in myself as the person giving and in the person receiving.
So that's the smell part. What about some other senses?
Yeah, well, there's the visual that I said, so we're looking. But then, of course, my favorite part is the taste. So...
Okay, we'll go into that a little bit.
Well, just if you use your mouth, you use your lips, you use your tongue, and you taste the skin, like around the genitals, you taste, like if it's a cock, then under the balls and the perineum, the balls themselves, and then the base of the cock and the head of the cock, they smell and taste different.
I think that's a pretty novel thought for most people.
Yeah, it's different. So you become a connoisseur of the refined flavors of oral.
Well, and I think these same things as well play out too on the cunnilingus side, where you can really take in those, and sometimes the smell of, when you want to say vulva, pussy, or whatever
Yoni.
the word is, yoni, is vastly different from person to person and different from different parts as well, like the clitoris, the vaginal opening, the urethral opening, the scent between the outer lips and the inner thigh, around the pubic bone, heading down at the frenulum where the lips meet at the bottom, just close to the anus and the perineum. Completely different smells. It's a whole world. And sometimes the smell isn't even
Distinguishable?
a smell as like, oh, I'm smelling flowers. It's more that there's like, maybe it's pheromonal or something. It's like this
moaning fairies.
It's this electric type of feeling, and immediately will cause me to become erect. And I think this is something that's interesting too. As we start to look at oral sex, and I think really the purpose of this podcast episode is to talk about, if you as a person giving oral sex can truly enjoy it as opposed to seeing it as a task you do for others. I have found, both when I've worked with other companies that have done large surveys, or just talking to men, women, anybody, if their partner is loving it, doing it, that is the biggest turn on and number one tip for how to give great oral sex.
You're going into another sense, which is sound. So the sound, exactly, that you make while you're giving, just like you would a pleasureful meal, something delicious. How many of us put something in our mouth, go, or oh, like that's so good. It's the same. And so that's a really strong aphrodisiac for the receiver, is to hear the pleasureful sounds of the lover. For me, receiving, I even like the sounds of things getting quite wet and sloppy. Yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like they're just like not afraid of anything. And that enthusiasm is something that really is quite arousing.
It's like a controlled recklessness.
Yes.
The control is how much pleasure can I bring, and the recklessness is whatever it takes to bring more pleasure.
Exactly.
Well, I think there's another side of that too, is that one, it has the receiver mentally know that you're enjoying it.
Yes.
Two, for yourself as a giver, when you eat something and you're doing it actually for yourself as well.
Exactly.
Which you then get more out of the experience. But then there's another level, which is just the vibrations that happen when the voice is
especially with a cock in the mouth. Start vibrating. It's like, what? My favorite thing is doing that and then watching the, like, feeling and sensing and hearing the response in the body of the receiver.
So when I was in university, I actually had a friend, and she's like, I love to give blowjobs, but she would call them hummers. And I was like, why do you call it a hummer? She's like, oh, well, you hum the whole time that you do it because it gives like way more sensation. I was like, Really? I want to try that out. Can you give me a blowjob?
Did she?
Yes.
Oh my God, nice friend.
Yeah, I was very curious to experience what the Hummer was like. And so, yeah, no, I definitely...
Did she like just plan to say that? Just that you would say yes? Was that a seduction tactic?
Well, no, it was a conversation that we had over a period of time. And eventually, after hearing it so much, and she was going, oh, she actually had never really been sexual before that, then, well, I got to try out the Hummer.
There you go.
And I was buzzing.
There you go. So we did the visual, we did the taste, we did the smell and the sound, and then there's texture.
Yes.
And the texture on your lips and tongue is extraordinary, and it changes depending if you're swallowing testicles or the cock or the thighs around, or for the vulva. There's a lot of layers there in textures, and I think you mentioned one day it was very hot and it felt like warm jello or something.
Yes. It was an incredible sensation. I mean, first of all, like, there was like just a slight bit of sweatiness, so it had like just a touch of saltiness, which I thought was amazing. Then it was a hot day, so there was the heat of the texture, and then also because of the heat, I think it was like just engorged, and meaning swollen, a lot of extra blood flow, so it was poofy, and I guess
Like a marshmallow?
but it's hard. It was poofy like a marshmallow, yet it was like
More malleable.
squishy like Jello.
Yeah.
But at the same, I mean, it was just a whole other. I don't even know how to describe the texture, but
Sure.
it was just fun.
Yeah.
The texture was fun in my mouth.
There you go. So you can have fun in your mouth. And so the reason we bring all this up is when you observe, say, oral on porn.
Well, before we go, I think I want to go a little bit more into the visual side.
Oh, okay.
I think there's such an important part on the visual.
Let's do the visual then.
And
Now we'll talk about the porn.
So I had a lover once.
Which
and
is visual.
I had a lover once, and I was like, well, what is it you love about blowjobs? And she's like, what's there not to love about blowjobs? And she just went on and on and on about all the amazing things. And by the time, 20 minutes in, I'm just like, yeah, blowjob. Like, I feel like I literally have the crown diadem, like, between my legs here. And one of the things that she spoke about was the dancing testicles and how they move during like a blowjob, and having that front and center, like front row view on stage, and just seeing them move and then feeling them in her hand respond accordingly, or even then just as like using the mouth and the hand and pulling away and then seeing the testicles dance. I thought that was quite an interesting one, as well as the changes in the color.
Yeah.
The change in swell. One of the things that you speak about in terms of textures as well, but also visual, is that you don't only like to give a blowjob when it's hard.
No, I like it when it's soft too, because there's a lot you can do with a soft cock in the mouth. You can kind of twist it around, do all kinds of fun things with the tongue, and actually bring it further down in the throat in a really easeful way. So there's just a lot to do. So I really enjoy that.
And what do you like about the visual side of when it's like soft or like going into hard or?
Oh, I don't always see it because I must be enjoying it. but no, and then of course just seeing it expand is it's fascinating because I don't have something like that. So I'm just looking like, wow, this is amazing. And just, it feels very, for me, like a privilege and a sign of, wow, this person's actually so completely turned on by me. And so I always experience a cock going from soft to hard as a gesture of like appreciation and connection. And I feel always very honored by erections.
For myself, when giving cunnilingus, really taking the time to admire the visual and talk about like the beauty that's in front of me, I know that for partners, that actually has brought them to tears sometimes because maybe they've not had that reflection, or they have certain judgments on the uniqueness and beauty of their labia. And I think something that's truly amazing is when the pussy is in this unaroused state, that when you start to go down, it's like you get to see what are those time-lapse pictures where
the flowers?
Of a flower that starts to open up and blossom? It's like a time-lapse picture in real time as you just start to see the pussy begin to just unfold. And I don't really like the word vulva or vagina because the vulva's technically just the outside and the vagina is technically just the inside. We don't have a word that's
The whole thing.
the whole thing, which is just insane for me. And so I use the word pussy, but we can use kitty cat or priestess or temple or yoni or whatever feels best. But this unfolding of the flower is just an incredible thing to behold as you start to see the hues change in color, the size begins to swell. As the lips then start to part, you can start to see a dew begin to come out as everything starts to wetten and the heat temperature changes. I mean, it's absolutely fascinatingly beautiful.
So you're encouraging me, look a little more.
Yes. And reflect what you're seeing and as a way of admiration and almost, you'll hear about like genital worship is a kind of word that gets thrown around, but just taking it all in all of those sensorial ways and reflecting how much pleasure it's bringing you. You're going to get more out of it and they're going to get a lot more out of it. So let's go into though what you're saying, like what are the things then that hold people back? Yeah,
well, I think one of the first places we ever see oral is with porn. And the times that I've observed it that way, I know absolutely 100% that what I'm witnessing is never what I would want to receive.
Yeah.
The stiffness of the tongue, it doesn't feel nice. You see a lot of these party tricks on social media right now.
Yes.
Little TikTok things where the guys are
flicks the tongue and the candle goes out.
Yeah, they're flapping their tongues really hard and fast. There is even a Taoist practice to strengthen your tongue where you have to flick a ruler. You know how hard rulers are? You have to flick a ruler.
Wow.
So you can imagine the strength of the tongue. But I have found that kind of...
You're not trying to break boards.
Yeah, it's pussy kung fu.
I think breaking boards is more of a karate thing, but yeah, then again, who knows?
We break boards. I broke some boards in my country.
Don't want to hold out the kung fu practitioners.
So, anyways, back to the visuals that are just like the rapid way, or there's one visual that's really disturbing to me because when it's been done to me, it feels horrible. Now, maybe for some people, it feels nice. And so this is the thing with oral, if you don't have a permanent partner and you're doing it with different partners, it's not going to be what one person likes doesn't always translate to another. So you're really having to listen. And this is true no matter what the genitals are. Because some guys like it one way, some guys like it another way. Like it's...
Well, this is getting into the side of intimacy. Yeah. And when we specifically talk about intimacy here at Embodied Love, intimacy is the way that we actually make love. So we talk about embodied love. It's the embodiment of love. It's what we do with our bodies to literally make love.
Not just lip service.
Not just lip service. Exactly. But what is then the makeup of intimacy? And we talk about embodied love as having these 4 stages that create intimacy, which is the ability to express one's truth.
So give us an example of that with oral.
That would be, I like that. Okay. More of that, please. Or, ouch, I don't like that. That hurts. Or for instance, right now, you're giving information on that you don't want to be kung fu chopped with a tongue and have someone just go really hard because it doesn't feel good. So that's expressing truth, which then brings to the second stage of intimacy, creating intimacy, which is ability to respond, responsibilities. Okay.
So what you do with the truth.
Exactly.
So what would that look like in oral?
Well, if you say that's too hard, then you go lighter. You know? And then for you to even express your truth more accurately is, well, I like it when it's done this lightly. And then
so rather than just saying what I don't like, actually guiding and leading with what I do like.
Precisely.
And maybe I don't know always what I like, but I can just say, ooh, what you're doing right now feels amazing. Like, do more of that.
And sometimes it's not even verbal. Maybe it's you're grabbing the back of the partner's head in a way that feels good for them as well. And and you start to scoot yourself in. Yeah. Or you start to push away. And you start to actually embody your consent, which is a whole other piece that we really promote here, which is that it's not just about how you think you should be doing things, but how it actually feels you should be doing things.
Well, I think this piece, the second step of intimacy, responsibility, it's really, really important to understand how powerful it is. When someone tells you your truth, how you choose to hold that rather than being kind of defensive or judgmental or like, I don't care, I'm just going to do it my way anyways.
I feel like they're giving you literally the sacred scriptures of their body.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, new insight here. Like,
Yes.
cherish that.
Right. So, but I have found that sometimes people do get defensive. So the idea, though, is if someone tells you your truth, it's like you don't have to say it in the moment because your mouth might be full, but responding to that truth is responsibility. So if someone's asking for you to move slower and you do, what happens next is trust.
Trust, exactly. Which then when you start to build that deeper trust, guess what? You're going to be more likely to go ahead and have more sexual experiences, oral or otherwise.
Yes.
And then that trust is going to allow the person to let go deeper into what we talk about as celebration, which could be just, this feels amazing, or I love you, let's do that again, or orgasm.
Orgasm.
Which then allows you to discover new truths, because what maybe is truthful at the beginning of an experience as everything cycles then becomes different, because maybe later on you're like, oh, that's too much at the beginning, and then later you're like, no, get lost in there.
Exactly. So there is an evolution, and oral has its evolution, and I think it changes day to day and mood to mood. Like sometimes you're really open and receptive and feeling creative, and sometimes you've been shut down. It's been a hard day and you feel a bit frozen and numb. So oral might be a really nice way to start melting things open and bringing things back online.
So for both of those, everything that we listed around all the senses, everything we listed around the intimacy of it, is also the exact reasons why people sometimes don't like to engage in oral sex. Because they don't like the smell, they don't like the taste, they don't like the feel, they don't like the visual, they don't like the way, they're afraid of making sounds, or maybe there's no sounds at all and the person's just laying there.
Terrified of speaking their truth.
Exactly.
Or when truth is spoken, it's rejected.
Precisely. Or it gets overridden and ignored.
Yeah.
And then if you've had a series of negative experiences for either of those, you're less likely to go into it. Well, before we switch though,
I'm excited to switch because I so can't wait to get into the suction part of oral.
Well, before we get into that, let's just drop two basic little rituals that people can do, or practices, or however you want to look at it, that will help with the sensorial side as well as the intimacy side.
Well, I remember with my first boyfriend, because I had bad experience. So I told him when we met, I don't do oral. That's that. Don't even bother. But through him accepting that, then I started to actually come towards it on my own time. And over time, I learned to really love it. And so I remember once he was at work and I'd left a little note on the door and I said, put this on. It was a blindfold, and then knock. And I was waiting. And so I knew exactly when he was coming home. So then I hear him knocking on the door, and I open. I had the blindfold on. I'm like, yes, he wants to play. And I brought him in the house and I sat him down and I said, okay, just relax. I'm going to take care of you. And I start to unzip his pants and you can see he's like, oh, what is this? And so I undressed the bottom half of his body and I prepared like a nice warm water, not soapy or anything, because I'm going to be putting his genitals in my mouth.
Using flavored soap?
No, but I had just beautiful warm water and a soft cloth. And I took my time and I just bathed him. And for him, it was a brand new experience. He'd never been honored that way ever. Yeah. And for me, after he comes home from rollerblading, it was a bit much, like the sweat. So at that time, then now I like it. But back then I was very finicky. So the washing ritual can help clean things. Now, if someone's pubes are quite smelly, because it happens sometimes, you could invite them into the shower and just give their pubes a little shampoo. I mean, it's really that simple, and you make it sexy, you make it luscious.
We'll use a nice soft shower head. It's all about the shower head. And
exactly.
Go ahead and run the water over. You can even explore all of the senses while being in the shower. Just make sure you don't drown.
Yes, exactly. If I know that someone really likes, say, a scent that I like, I will actually put a little bit of it just above the pubic bone.
Or even around the belly button.
Yeah, so that there's smell, but not from perfume, but not like on the actual genitals. So that ritual of washing can be done to any body, and when it's done really out of desire and love, and like it's very, very sweet. But I also do it at the end sometimes of the whole sexual experience. I love the washing experience.
Well, which really puts a person in that nice, relaxed state.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the sensorial ritual, bathing ritual.
Yeah.
Tell us about the one that you're thinking of for the intimacy side.
Yeah.
Which is expressing one's truth to a partner about how you like it.
Well, one of the ways I help women be able to show what they would love to receive is to offer to kiss their partner and tell their partner, I want you to just imagine that your mouth is my pussy, and I'm going to kiss you the way that I really love you kissing my pussy. And then you just, as a woman, or a man maybe, but more of a woman, just really going around and kissing and licking and nibbling and doing things with your tongue that you really do enjoy, and taking your time. And what I have found is partners are really able to learn very, very quickly when we give them this very playful way of giving feedback. So
yes.
It's not you do it bad and wrong. I just want to show you what I love. And I'm going to do it in a sexy way. I'm going to do it by kissing you. And it's really luscious. And then for the men with for the fellatio, I've sometimes had them demonstrate like on a finger. So they will actually like suck the finger of their partner, and it's amazing to experience that, because you're like, really, you like it like that? Like you start to really learn like, oh, I can touch you that intensely. And
well, I think that's a big key there. If we're just to summarize that, it's not a blow job. You're not blowing
job.
It is a suck job.
Well, we've gone way over this for this episode, what we normally do.
So we're going to jump over into the explicit side, where we're going to be talking about anatomy, the nerves, suction sex, and very much
some really amazing secrets around suction.
Of having a person become an active receiver, what that means, how to be an adaptive giver. We're also going to go into the 3 points of suction, both for blowjobs as well as cunnilingus. So definitely you're going to want to hear that.
All right, well then let's jump in, Mr. Suction Sex. To join us for the complete and explicit version of this podcast, just simply upgrade your membership and you'll get instant access.